competitiveness through domestic policy reforms, market access and trade facilitation, macroeconomic balance, policy and institutional coherence, and helping the adjustment of enterprises and workers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the most significant trade policy measures we are undertaking is the negotiation of bilateral partnership agreements. The FTA in goods with India is being deepened and it is being broadened to include services, investment, technology and training. We have to recognize that India is expected to be the fastest growing economy in the world in the coming years, with a middle class consumer base that will be 10 to 15 times our own domestic market. Currently, 6 rounds of negotiations of EDCA have been successfully concluded, and the 7th round is scheduled to be held in December. Our key objective of the Economic and Technology Cooperation Agreement with India is to resolve the implementation issues of the existing FTA. During the EDCA negotiations, India has agreed to implement an early harvest the day EDCA comes into force to address outstanding non-tariff barriers in the Indian market, as well as many of the existing procedural barriers and delays in Indian ports of entry. This will particularly benefit exporters of perishable goods such as fruits, vegetables, fish, and so on. Moreover, Sri Lanka is negotiating the removal of quotas on apparel, pepper, and vanaspati. An important new measure will be the establishment of the structural grievance redressal mechanism to resolve problems faced by Sri Lankan exporters in a firm and time-bound manner. A very clear decision has been made not to include solely Mode 4-based movement of independent professionals under this agreement. It will not be opened up. Meanwhile, the China-Sri Lanka FTA will generate nearly $700 million of trade, and the apparel sector alone is set to gain $400 billion in new trade. To date, 6 rounds of negotiations have concluded, and the agreement contains 9 chapters. During these 6 rounds, substantial progress has been made. We are also nearing completions of negotiations on the FTA with Singapore, having completed 7 rounds of negotiations. We are particularly focused on encouraging Singaporean investment into Sri Lanka. The agreement is expected to be signed in January 2018. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in addition, GSP Plus has been restored, providing preferential market access for 6,000 plus items. If things proceed according to plan, it is possible the narrative will be Sri Lanka has preferential access to a market of over 3 billion. China, EU, India, Pakistan, and Singapore. In a world where over 190 countries are competing for FDI, this preferential market access can be a unique differentiator. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as you know, Sri Lanka ratified the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement earlier this year. A key component of this is effective national coordination. A National Trade Facilitation Committee has been established to drive the implementation of Sri Lanka's TFA commitments. On trade facilitation, a single electronic window is established to be operational in the Customs Department shortly. These measures are intended to reduce the transaction costs of the cross-border movement of goods, thereby enhancing the trade competitiveness of the economy. All these measures are intended to improve the investment climate and trading environment for both domestic and foreign investors. We are aware of the possible trade disruptions that can occur during the transition period. An Anti-Dumping and Countervailing Measures Act and a Safeguard Measures Act are being presented to Parliament soon. The bills are ready, and I think this can be debated and approved in December or January. This will protect domestic business from unfair competition. A trade adjustment package is developed to improve the resilience of the local businesses exposed to increased competition as a result of trade liberalization. Support for local industries to upgrade machinery and introduce new technology and to provide retraining for workers. Foreign direct investment into Sri Lanka has been performing poorly. But with efforts that our ministry is taking, this has begun to turn around. At the Board of Investment, we now have leading private sector personalities, specialists, leading the investment promotion and appraisals to ensure we get the best of investors to our country, that we facilitate them well and tell the other investors about the opportunities here. The approvals and facilitation process for foreign investors is being completely streamlined, with decisions being taken quicker, more transparently than ever before. The one-stop shop mechanism is being set up to address regulatory inefficiencies and interagency coordination. An organization structure of the OSS and a web solution for OSS approval process has been developed. The BOI has revised its goals and targets in its new corporate plan 2017 to 2020, with a view to play a key role in contributing to the sustainable development of the country driven by FDI. This new corporate plan presents a bold and a new strategic approach to targeting and securing significantly high values of high-quality FDI. To complement this, a single window investment appraisal committee was established to facilitate granting of approvals within the shortest possible time. An investment facilitation committee is also in place to fast-track approvals of other line agencies. The flagship investment that we brought in 2017 is a new logistics and industrial zone at Hambantota, with an initial FDI flow of US dollars 1.12 billion, and a further US dollars 500 million is expected within the next 2 to 3 years. The zone is being developed with Chinese investment, and we expect a lot of investors' interest in this, not only from Chinese companies, but from many other Asian countries. The next will be the industrial zones in Millenia, Mavatagama, Bingariya, and Valigama. The zone in Millenia will be an investment from the Rojana Corporation of Thailand, who are operating about 3 zones in Thailand, and mainly with 7 zones in Thailand, mainly with the Japanese investors. The new Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017 provides a predictability of incentives for new investment and introduce a new incentives regime with effect from 1st April 2018, which is based on enhanced capital allowances or investment allowances. Mr. Deputy Speaker, our ministry is committed to leading the effort in improving the ease of doing business for Sri Lankan entrepreneurs and foreign investors. With the technical assistance from the World Bank, we developed a roadmap for investment climate reforms, which was launched in July this year. In the last 3 months alone, 8 teams of government officials representing public service delivery agencies have been working on 8 high priority doing business sub-indicators: starting a business, dealing with construction permits, registering a property, getting credit, trading across borders, enforcing contracts, resolving insolvency, and protecting minority interests. Under the 8 priority sub-indicators, 15 specific measures to be taken, and the time frame, responsibility agency, and outcomes have been identified, and the work is progressing accordingly. Outcomes for mid-2018 include providing a one-day service for company registration to reduce the time taken to register a company from the current 9 days to 1 day. Introducing a streamlined online system to reduce the number of days for construction permit issuance from 115 days today to 60 days. And introducing a searchable e-land registry to enable property registration in 5 days with 2 steps rather than the current 51 days and 9 steps. The blueprint of the long-awaited national single window will be completed by June 2018, paving the way to establish a system that integrates more than 20 agencies dealing with various clearances and approvals in trading across borders. Our ministry is continuously monitoring the reform process towards achieving the objective set out by the Honorable Prime Minister in moving up the DBI ranking to be within the top 20 economies by 2020. These are some of the examples of just some of the many outgoing measures the government is taking to improve the business climate in Sri Lanka for domestic enterprises as well as for foreign investors through legal, regulatory and procedural improvements. While this is an ongoing process and benefits will take time to materialize, positive results are already being seen. An internal report suggests FDI this year will be about 80% more than the last year. We expect FDIs over 1 billion, about 1.2 billion this year, and in the next year, I believe it will go up to about $2.5 billion. With regard to innovation and diversification, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we have identified that Sri Lanka needs to diversify its economy and produce as well as export a range of new and innovative products and services. With technical input from the Harvard University's Center for International Development, the teams comprising officials from the BOI, EDB, and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority have been working over the last year to improve our targeting of foreign investors and identify new export and investment sectors. This is being directly handled by the State Minister, Mr. Honorable Sujiva Senasinghe. We are also close to finalizing a new national export strategy, the NES, with a focus on competitiveness and innovation. The aim is to grow exports from the current 10 billion or 11 billion to 20 billion over the next 5 years in sectors ranging from high value and high quality food and beverages to leisure boats, IT services, and electronic components. The NES will be presented to Cabinet within the next 2 months. What was unique and valuable about this exercise is the close collaboration of the private sector. Every single section of the NES was developed through a participatory approach with over 450 industry leaders, SMEs, and public sector officials being consulted. Another valuable part of this is a strong focus on actions. Actions plans have been developed for each sector and each trade support function. We want to make sure that the implementation begins from January itself. I am happy to announce that several proposals made through the NES process have been included in the budget by the Honorable Finance Minister. We also recognize the need to create an ecosystem that promotes innovative thinking and creates new products and services. We have embarked on producing a new framework for this, the innovation and entrepreneurship strategy, with the technical input of the World Bank and co-leadership of the private sector. This will be implemented jointly with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Research and Ministry of Industry and Commerce. The strategy focuses on upgrading quality and technology of export-oriented SMEs, create the conditions for startups to emerge, and reorient and upgrade R&D institutions that matter for export growth. Honorable Deputy Speaker, with Sri Lanka gaining the respect and recognition of the international community once more, we have been able to forge several economic cooperation agreements with key countries. These will help improve our trade performance, attract more and better FDIs, and create good job opportunities for our people. We entered into a roadmap for further investment promotion between Japan and Sri Lanka, and it is a result of the Sri Lanka-Japan economic policy dialogue following the visit of the Honorable Prime Minister to Japan in October 2015. A joint working group has been established to take this work forward, and 2 high-level meetings were held this year. We are embarking on a similar program with Korea for both investment promotion as well as transfer of technology and know-how. The economic cooperation agreement is due to be signed at the end of this month during the visit of His Excellency the President to Korea. During the recent visit of the Australian Prime Minister, we entered into a cooperation program with Australia focused on trade and investment promotion. We have relaunched the EU-Sri Lanka Investor Dialogue in 2017, and up to now, 3 rounds have been held this year to resolve trade and investment-related problems and grow the bilateral economic cooperation. These leverages nicely on the regaining of GSP Plus in May, which was a great achievement of the government, as only possible because of the respect of the international community that the President and Prime Minister have regained for Sri Lanka. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the people of this country are already seeing the benefits of regaining GSP Plus. Apparel exports to EU in the first 9 months of this year have increased by $1.67 billion. In the pre-GSP Plus period, apparels were growing at just 2%. But in the few months of regaining GSP Plus, it has surged by 11.3%. Fisheries exports are up by 40% compared to the same period last year. The GSP Plus scheme is giving our exporters a renewed opportunity to succeed in the EU market in sectors like fresh and processed vegetables and fruits, coconut products, seafood, ceramics, footwear, and of course, apparels. It is also promoting backward integration, resulting in the setting up of new industries, creating new employment opportunities for the youth of our country. With regard to the year ahead, Honourable Deputy Speaker, our ministry will focus on expanding our trade and investment even further by bringing in good investors to Sri Lanka who will create good, high-value job opportunities and who will help Sri Lanka plug into global value chains. We will focus very strongly in operationalizing new investment zones and attracting investors into them in Hambantota, Millenia, Waligama, Bingeria, and so on. We will focus strongly on implementing the national export strategy that will diversify our export base, boost competitiveness of our exporters, and win new consumers in new markets. Specifically, our ministry welcomes the budget proposal to launch an exporter market access program that will be implemented through the Export Development Board and the new IT initiative to take this emerging sector to new heights. Through strategic economic cooperation agreements with new countries, we will invite more partners to help Sri Lanka achieve its goals of prosperity and economic transformation. And through improvements in the ease of doing business, as well as new initiatives to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship, we will create a new culture of enterprise in Sri Lanka. To that end, the proposals on Enterprise Sri Lanka announced by the Finance Minister are extremely valuable, and I look forward to working together to support these efforts and achieve the Vision 2025 of this government. May I also invite, Deputy Speaker, the members of the opposition to work together with us, leaving aside petty political differences, to ensure that our young people have a great future. Thank you very much.
පුතුමා කොයි මලික් සමරක කැමතුමයි කතාවට ඇතුළත තමයි. We have 1 minute. Yeah. වාසුදේව පුතු.
සභාපතිතුමනි, හොරණ අද රිවිර පත්තරයේ තිබුණු ප්‍රවෘත්තියක් මේ හොරණ වතුයායකින් කොටසක් කාර්මික සංවර්ධන කලාපයක් සඳහා අත්පත් කර ගැනීමට යෑම නිසා පවුල් 170කට ඒගොල්ලන් හිටපු නේවාසික ස්ථාන අයිමි වෙන බවත් ඔවුන්ගේ රැකියා අයිමි වෙන බවත් පත්තරේ පළවී තිබුණා. මේට ඔබතුමාගේ අවධානය යොමු කරනවා. මේ සංවර්ධන කලාප ඇතිවීමත් මිනිස්සුන්ගේ උන්හිතියන් හා රැකියා නැතිවීමත් අතර තිබෙන්නා වූ ප්‍රශ්නය ගැන ඔබතුමන්ලාගේ යොමුවීම අප බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
මේක මේ ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේ කියන තැන අපේ තාම එතන තීරණයක් අරගෙන නැහැ ඩෙවලොප් කරන්න. දැන් අපි දැන් කරන්නේ මිල්ලෙනිය මිල්ලෑව කියන තැන
කිව්වේ
මිල්ලෑවද
මිල්ලෑවත් මිල්ලෙනිය නෙමෙයි මිල්ලෙනිය නෙමෙයි මිල්ලෑවත් තියෙන්නේ අපි හිටපු අගමැතිතුමාගේ මුල් ගම තියෙන හරිය.
දැන් එහෙම මගේ මේ අපේ රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යතුමාට කිව්වා එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා නම් අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට ගෙවල් හරි හදලා දීලා ඔව් දැන් වන්දියකොත් දීලා දැන් ඒගොල්ලන් එකක වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා මට මේ අපේ රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යතුමා කියලා තියෙනවා.
පත්‍රයේ පුවත් පතේ තියෙන ඒ ප්‍රවෘත්තියට ඔබගේ අවධානය මම යොමු කරනවා.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි. මම අපි ඒක බලලා වැඩ කරන්න විදියට.
right